My dear friends, today I wish to offer my take on a topic which has proven both controversial and emotive: immigration. The purpose of this video is not to explore the minutiae and figures of migratory patterns, but rather to look at the all encompassing why of our immigration policy as a country. Migration is an age old phenomenon in human existence, and the history of South Africa is fundamentally shaped by the movements of people. Yet, despite this background, we have seen an increasing backlash against immigration, not only in South Africa, but in the world in general. I believe that this sentiment is based in fact, as we have been and are currently living in an era of unprecedented mass migration. In that regard, South Africa is home to the largest number of immigrants on the African continent, with about 2.9 million immigrants calling South Africa home, accounting for about 5% of the population. We have seen similar patterns replicated in many nations around the world, such as in the West. There have been mass migration of millions of people seeking a better life, not only for themselves, but also for their families. However, this much rapid change has proved unsettling for local populations, as in the West, we've seen the rise of extreme right wing politics, which, in hindsight, with a bit of time to reflect, we've seen immigration as being one of the main causes and drivers of this sentiment. In South Africa, we've seen that there's been an extreme response with xenophobic violent attacks, which have now morphed into a vigilante mass movement named Operation. The historical approach of our immigration policy, characterized by sentimentality, has reaped this festering resentment, which periodically explodes into violence. What is required now is not sentimentality, but rather an approach of pragmatism as our guiding philosophy. We need to have the guts to be picky with those we allow into our country, unequivocally stating that we'll take some, but you better do us some good. Sentimentality can be described as actions marked or governed by some form of feeling, sensibility, or emotional idealism. And often the intentions behind the sentimentality are noble and include, but are not limited to, a desire to offer refuge and opportunity away from the poverty and devastation wrought by the failures of our neighbors, a desire to change the relationship of our country away from the enclosure and suspicion which characterized the apartheid era to one of openness and embrace, a desire to disassociate oneself away from the xenophobic violence which has been a blight in our current era. However, as the old adage goes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And the consequence of this approach has only reaped untold multitudes of migrants, mainly into the lower sections of our economy, whilst we have seen an exodus of wealthy and skilled South Africans. This could only result in the anger and resentment that we've seen, as locals now not only have to compete for scarce employment opportunities, but also for market share in the informal economy. The politics of pragmatism requires that we have control over the flow of migrants into our country. This could be done by fortifying our border with the requisite fencing, walls, or concrete, as any policy that we'd have remains purely words on paper if we don't have control over anyone purely wanting to come in and out of our country as they please. We need to have an understanding of the characteristics of our immigrants, looking at factors such as how well their children do in school and their propensity towards things such as crime and disease. And finally, in a country such as ours that offers taxpayer-funded public benefits, we need to have an understanding and control over the utilization of these benefits, as not only due to the extent of the need, but also because the limitation of resources. We need to be unapologetic and make immigration policy skills-based the order of the day. We've seen similar approaches pursued in countries such as Canada, who have not suffered the same kind of nativist uproar as their Western peers, because they realized long time ago that they need to have control over their border and be picky with whom they allowed into the country. If we are to continue with the current approach, it would only perpetuate the cycle of violence that continues to periodically outburst. It is time that we changed course. It is time that we pursued a politics of pragmatism. It is time